Look, I have flowers on my strawberries already. Yay! There's another one right there. That means I'll have a berry there. Not here to talk about strawberries. Here to talk about this. Okay, so I put some enamel on it, and to afford it a little bit of rust protecting. Kind of got a little overspray. I'll have to clean that off. But you understand this situation here, right? This is going to support our air conditioner. Now we can turn this around too. We can, trust me. Where it's considerably closer. So when I get this out, it'll be almost right on that edge. So, okay, that's there. Let's go inside and work on the inside. Okay, I have the bed out and the support underneath the mattress, and that leaves the frame. I know it looks kind of wacky, all kind of piecemeal and stuff like that, but when I took the top of this frame off, much like I took the countertop off, there was no there. I don't know how it supported itself. It was in such a way that the bed was being supported by the fuse panel. Yeah, I know. Anyways, so I did a lot of reconstruction on this, and it had some insulation, sort of. I did some foam insulation the best way I knew how, and stuff to cover up the generator. The cardboard there is just as a keep it from making noise, kind of a baffle kind of a thing. It's not. Anyways, back to what we were going to do. Here's the rear window, and as you can see, I supported this rear bed. It was just attached to the nothing, whatever, this wall, because the wall's made out of like 1/8 inch like nothing, and then some more nothing, and then nothing on the outside. I don't understand how they put this thing together, because it was so cheap. Even my taillights, I had to fashion a piece of plywood and attach it to some places in order to affix my taillights, because the screws weren't biting into anything. Yeah. Anyways, so I put some supports here for the back of the bed, and what I'll probably do is I'll lift up these two cables, and I'll put a couple of 2x4s underneath here, and then tie them into this somehow, and then my supports will come directly up from that. There is a bit of a curve on that, isn't there? We'll curve that a little bit, probably take this piece off right here. We'll be able to curve that. And I'll probably have 2 1-bys coming up on either side tied together. And then they'll be supported by a smaller piece of plywood right here. So when you raise your head up, you should be able to whack yourself pretty good in the head. There you go. So the air conditioner will be supported on the outside and the inside of this window. This is our emergency window, so taking it out in case the thing catches on fire is a safety factor of 10, I guess. I don't know. Another thing I'm going to do is I have some wire here, and I'm going to run probably an outlet in a box down there that I can plug the air conditioner into, and I'll probably scoot it underneath there, underneath the tub. There's a little deal that goes underneath there, like you have to kind of skate the wire in, and it all comes out underneath here, the stove. But I'm going to put a junction box there and run another box, electrical box, here somewhere, maybe down, and I'd probably be up like on this wall, probably on that wall. Well, I don't know where I'll be. Maybe on the other side of that for a microwave. I'm going to have another 2 outlets and a dedicated line to run a microwave and an air conditioner And that way I'm not tapping off the 30 amp that's on there, and I can have another electrical line going into the box when we stop at an RV park. There's a 110 there, another 110 that's 20 amps. There's a 35 and a 20 amp. I don't know if it's I think they're on separate breakers, so you should be able to run 55 amps or something. 50 amps at that park. All right, let's get busy on this. I've rigged up a little affair here. I thought I would use a little steel instead of. Let's see where those holes are. That's about right. I've got holes drilled. You can see the light through it. Kind of. Yeah. It's kind of plugged up with wood chips, flotsam and jetsam, or whatever they call that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this plate down here, and it's still a little. I've got it braced. Well, I think it'll be okay. Yeah, it don't need to be that. Jeez, I'm just supporting an air conditioner. I'm not hanging a tank, so I think it'll be okay. To get it bolted down, it should. They should fit in there about like so. And then these pieces, yeah, let's see here. This is just 1/8 inch plate, and so these pieces should slide into right there. Clean all the crap out of it, they'll slide. And when I get this, geez, you can't see anything, is the. When I get this window out of the way, I'll be able to recess this in just a little bit, probably. And these slide up and down, and I'll be able to set the height so that I can take this plate and probably fit it to the other one and weld it, tack it all together, then take it all out and weld it up proper, and then fit it all back in. Adjust it. Like maybe put some foam or something underneath there, so it sits on there. It doesn't sit completely right on the wood of the motorhome. And then this piece here will go underneath on the other side, and it'll sandwich it together with the floor. So if that makes sense to you. So yeah, that ought to work. I think just for giggles, because this flexes like this back and forth, I did put some braces here, but it flexes like this. I'm going to put a pipe in between here, just for giggles. Just for, yeah, there you go. Don't have to be perfect. That's good. Put another brace in there. Stiffen it up some. Let's see if this will go in there now. Let's see here. We've painted this, and it's kind of hard to fit in there. Pull that wiring up. The original wiring. Let's see if we can find the holes for this. Maybe. They haven't disappeared. Yeah, there we go. Now, I got me some grade 5 bolts. 5. I've got 3 marks on the back, so that's a 5. 5 marks on the back would be a grade 8. This is a step up from a standard bolt. I bought 4 inchers, and I hope that they're going to fit all the way through. We'll go down underneath and look, but I'll have 4 there. I know I have 2 extra holes, but what are you going to do? Bolts. Nuts and bolts. Tractor Supply. If you have got a Tractor Supply in your town, you can buy these. I bought 4 grade A, or grade 5 rather, bolts, the nuts and washers, all grade 5. And this package was $3.12. It's $3.99 a pound there. if you went to Ace to buy that individually, that'd be $8 or $9 probably. So nuts and bolts, fasteners are expensive just to begin with. So let's put those bolts through and I'll meet you on the other side. We're underneath it, motorhome, designing on the fly. I had to cut this piece of steel down a little bit. Didn't have any real plans exactly how everything was supposed to fit, just doing the best I can. You know, this isn't rocket science. We're just trying to hang a air conditioner off the back of it, reasonably stout. If you noticed, I've got some 1/2-inch bolts there I put on to take up the slack because the bolts are too long. I didn't measure properly, but it's okay. That'll work fine. Give it a little zap there. We'll get those tightened up and we should be on our way. Meet you up top. Now we have things tightened up. We can see exactly where this is going to sit. Because of the curvature of the back of the bus, even when you're right up against it here at the bottom, you're 2 inches away. So I'm going to have another piece of pipe here and here welded onto this in order to support this. So we'll have to take this back off and we'll have to weld a couple more sections on there. And it should be just fine. Like I said, designing on the fly. Ah, the miracle of editing. I added 2 more pieces back there. Bolted it all down. That's better. Yeah. Much better. Yeah, that'll work fine. What we'll do is we'll put some wet towels there or something like that behind it or something, some cardboard up behind it, and hit it with a welder. We'll just hit it on this side and this side. It should be enough to support it. Yeah, it should be fine. And it won't catch anything on fire too bad. Put some towels down and stuff. Damp towel or something. Alright, we'll probably have to put a splice across here and across here as a support, maybe block in here and staple them to it or something. We'll put that together. Talk about wiring here for a minute. Focus. 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 See if I can get that. 12.2. 12.1 is the gray outdoor wiring. The 2 is the indoor wiring, Romex. This is 12 gauge, and 12 gauge is for 20 amp. It'll hold 20 amp. The wiring that's in this is 14 gauge. This stuff is 14 gauge, so I'm not going to use the outlets that are in this. I also have an extension cord here that we're going to use as the power inlet, and it says I don't know if you can read that, but it says 12.3. That's upside down. 3 is probably going to be meaning it's kind of a braided wire, and I want to use a braided wire that's going out and not a solid line, so it's flexible. And we'll use this braided line going up into our junction box, and then our junction box out to our 2 outlets. Run this extension cord out to where I plug in at with my main power line, and I'm going to make sure that this is a little bit longer. Well, no, what I'm trying to tell you is I want the cable as long as the main power line, so I can plug in either or, and there's plenty of cable. This one here, the end, it seems to get a little warm, as I remember, which means probably there's a failure taking place in this. So I'm probably going to cut this like there, and I'm going to put a new heavy-duty end on it, so I'm giving a little bit of extra space. But I've got this running all this way, which is quite significant, and I've got enough to go inside plenty. So essentially I want it the same size or same length at least as this cable here. Here's our junction box that we're going to use. I've got the cable from the outside going in here. This is going to power the air conditioner. This is going to power a microwave, or outlets to do that. It's a wonder. It just amazes me that this tiny little pieces of copper right here, and they're pretty heavy. This is 12 gauge wire. There is 14 and even 16, if I'm not mistaken, Romex, that it's considerably thinner still, that handle 15 amps. And this handles 20 amps. And 20 amps doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a phenomenal amount of power, 20 amps is. So we're going to mount this down. I just find that amazing that this little wire right here carries enough energy to operate an air conditioning system or a microwave. It's just phenomenal. Electricity is phenomenal. Magic pixies. We're going to screw this down. Has 3 mounts to screw it down, and we're going to use some cable ties in there to tie that to a couple of different places. I'm also going to wrap this around there and screw it down too, so when you're pulling out the cable you don't pull on the box. Yeah, so that's going to be important. You know, you don't want to tug and pull on the lines and maybe disrupt them, so you want them secured very well. Okay, all the whites go together, all the blacks go together. The white is the neutral, the black is the hot. The greens and the solid copper are grounds. Usually what I do is I wrap 2 of them together, the 2 solid wires. I give them a little twist. Then I wrap the braided around it, and when I put this on here, this wire tie, it screws down on it and it connects them all, and you keep going until things are nice and twisty. Or things are kind of twisted up. Start twisting. There you go. Until it bites real good and it stops threading and it starts twisting. And then you're good. Don't keep going on that like that, or you'll fracture your solid copper. Get all 3 of those done and you can tuck them down in there. The ground is supposed to have a different color on it, and I'm just going to use all blue. The color code is the same on the outlets. You have to put the outlets in the right way because they're slotted for neutral and hot, and it says exactly on the back what it's supposed to be. It says hot wire, and then it says neutral over here. So some of them are coated silver and then gold. In fact, I think this is silver for white, yeah, and those are gold for hot. And then the green, of course, is ground. Don't forget to ground your outlets too. These are a heavier duty outlet. Sometimes they have ones that just push in, and what you're doing is you've got the edge of the wire just barely touching a piece of contact, and that's the wrong idea. This way you get at least the whole wire width in there and then clamp down, so you've got a solid connection and you're actually able to transmit the amperage of power that was intended, so you doesn't get hot. All right. Okay, I'm using some urethane here. Seal things up. Urethane makes a great seal. It doesn't stick to too much, but if you wrap it around it, it makes a good mechanical seal. And I'm using a little in there, like that. And I used some back in here too. I put the three spot ties around that wiring harness and laid that the cable on top, then put the 3 spot ties, and I went around it with some urethane, and that's going to hold it in place. And I'll show you something else. You can't see this very well, but there's a pipe there. It's kind of painted blue. It's a water pipe that drains from the sink, and I wrapped around it with some urethane a long time ago. Urethane sticks to urethane quite well, so I'm going to take that. Then I'm going to run my orange cable in it, just like that. Then I'm going to make a mechanical fix around it, like that. And when this dries, you won't be able to pull that wire out of the junction box. That's what I'm all setting on. I'm trying to keep from happening, is trying to pull that wire loose out of the junction box. You don't want to do that. So once that sets up, she should be solid and fine and wonderful. And I got plenty of room to stuff it back in there. And there you go. So I think the outlet is going to go up here in the kitchen. I'm going to have to leave it raised a little bit to keep it. Don't want it right flat like that for the fear it might ingress water. I'm going to raise it up just a tick like that. That way the cover can go on. I can clean underneath it, and I'm going to mark my area right there where I'm going to drill a hole. I've got a couple of pieces of PVC right there that 245 is making a 90, I think. No, 290 is making a 180. And it's probably, once I get that drilled, it'll come in, and the whole unit will go this way some, probably. And that should work really well for a microwave. So I can plug a microwave into it. Your outlets should never go like this, where things can get spilled into them. You should have them at least up like this. They have outlets like that are upside down. That's fine, but like I said, that's a 15 amp outlet. It's got 14 gauge wire going to it. This will have 12 gauge wire to it, and it will be capable of it just scares me, plugging something like that into that. It just the thing never came with a microwave, so you know, you have to make amends for stuff like that if it never did. Alright, that looks good. Let's drill our hole. I've decided this is probably a better place. Hate the idea of buzzing a hole through my... Seems to be a little bit better. So that'll be a better place for that outlet. And then I've got this one mounted down here too, next to the vent. And we don't really use the heater, and the heater goes up anyway, so it's... Had to take a piece of 2x4 and mount it from there, but it should be fine. So let's get the outlets in. Okay, on the back of the rosetka here, the outlet, there's a little guide right there. It's a strip guide, and it tells you how long to have your copper. It's about right. Okay, if you notice, one side is gold and one side silver. The silver side is the white side, or the neutral. Gold side is the hot side. This copper goes right here. Now, if you notice, the screw is right there, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. I have this bent in a clockwise fashion because I'm going to turn this screw in a clockwise fashion. So when I put that on there, hook it on there, and I turn it, it's not going to unravel the wire. I'll show you that. I'll show you more when I put the plug on. Some people don't know this. Some people are going, well, duh. Okay. And how does this go? Does this go this way, or does this go this way? It always goes the way it's smiling. Hi, I'm smiling, I think. It'll say up on here, one way or another. I might be wrong, but we'll see. I think that's the way it goes. Okay, we'll get this put on there. You slide them into these terminals, and then you just tighten one lug down. The reason why it has 4 terminals is if you want to run this to another outlet, you can tap off this one and run it to another outlet. That way you're not running individual wires. You just run it to one outlet and then use this as a bus to go to another outlet, to another outlet, to another outlet. Might be 4 in the same room that run off the same outlets. But these are very sturdy how they're made, and I really like these. These are about $2 a piece, where the other cheap ones are about 75 cents. These are much stouter for just a little bit more. Let's get it hooked up. I installed this with the ground facing upwards simply because the one in the bathroom here is the same way. The GFI has the ground upwards. Don't know why. You can read 125 volt on it and Eaton and the writing all on this right side up now. It's not upside down. So it's highly possible that that's the correct way. Either or, it's going to work for me. Alright, once you got this in there, what I did is I pulled my wire through the pipe at the bottom to kind of set it in there. You put these 2 screws there, tighten it up, and then a cover goes on the top of it. Same situation here. Same situation here. Your black goes onto your gold side, and the white or neutral, and the black is the hot and neutral is white, goes on the silver side. It says on the outside of that, it says hot. On the other side, your ground goes on. Another thing I like doing is I tighten these other lugs up in the event that nothing else is going into them. And the reason why is if you tighten these lugs up like this, while you're going down the road, you don't have another rattle, 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 rattle. I know it sounds stupid, but there you go. Okay, let's put that in there and put the cover on it. Okay, all peachy fine there. Let's go out and work on the plug outside. Because the wind's blowing 480 miles an hour outside, you wouldn't be able to hear me. So I took this plug apart, essentially this heavy-duty plug that I bought, the male plug, and it has 2 screws, and they're here, and you take about, and this thing end comes out of there. What you have to do is you have to loosen the 3 screws. You loosen them up all the way. Of course, the green is the ground, the silver is the white or the neutral, and the gold is the hot. And it also says on the plug what's what, if you read really closely. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this off down here, because we had some heat issue up here, so I'm thinking that probably we have an issue with it, not the original connection. This is an older. And cut it down here and use that. Feed this through here, and then attach that, and I'll show you when I get them attached. If it doesn't run away. We have all 3 in. We're rechecking black to the gold, white, neutral to the silver, and green. I had to give them just a little twist so I could get a bite down here on the insulation. So when this folds forward, it has a little deal in there that squeezes that. So when you put the screws in and tighten it up, it holds on to the cord, so it just doesn't yank it. The wires out of the end of the the plug. So let's put this together. So double disco on that. Let me try to explain this a little better for those of you that don't understand what I just did. At my park, there's a box that you can hook into. It has 2 circuit breakers. One breaker is 30 amp, the other is 20 amp. The 30 amp breaker is for the big plug that most motorhomes have. There you go, 30 amps. Sometimes there's a 50 amp service, but I don't have a 50 amp service. I have 30. That's all this bus is rated for, is 30 amps. Bigger ones are 50. But I have the elective to use one of these rosetkas right here, outlets, and these are 20 amps because it has a circuit breaker underneath it that says 20 amps. So the end to this, they're supplying 50 amps to this box. Okay, and 20's going here, 30's going there. If I can only use 30 amps, you know, I could use 20 more if I wanted to. Park there, and it's, you know, it's free. So essentially, I've got now a outlet. They're only rated at 15 amps, but it's pretty heavy duty as far as what I've got. And you know, I can draw 15 amps off this using a you know, microwave oven or an air conditioner. I'm sure the air conditioner isn't going to draw 15 amps. I haven't seen it yet, what the rating is on it. It's probably 4 or 5 or something like that. 15 amps is an insane amount of power, actually. You don't think about it because most of your homes nowadays have 300 amp services, but everything in America is big and huge and giant, and everything is electric, so it's a lot of power, you know. They have huge houses with 300 amp services, and over in Europe they have, you know, apartments that have like 30 amps total. So yeah, anyway, but they're 220 and we're 10, and I digress. But that's the reason why I did this. If I plug into the 14 gauge wire at 15 amps, I don't like the idea. I can have the 12 gauge wire that I used, and it'll hold. I can have a separate circuit for an air conditioner, window unit, or a microwave, because this bus didn't come with a microwave, and there's a reason why it didn't come with a microwave, probably because it drew too many amps. Okay, so that's what we're doing. Anyways, it's nice to be able to do stuff like this, you know. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of fudging going on and stuff, but I don't care. It's my $400 motorhome, you know, so I'm not out anything, really. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this window out, and then we're going to build our platform for our air conditioner. The window's trim ring has these wacky square-headed screws, so we're going to take the trim ring out. Probably going to use that because I have to have something to trim it up. Then on the outside it has just regular Phillips screws, probably a cap on a lot of your windows, but mine doesn't have a cap. I've had it out before, ruined the cap, and I put Phillips screws in it. So let's take this window out. Okay, it's out. We'll have to clean up all this dum-dum. I'm going to paint all the sills in my windows. Probably again tape them off and paint them. So the frame that I make around this, that's going to frame in the air conditioner, I'll paint the same color. Haven't decided what I was going to make it out of yet. I marked where those two pieces need to join. And I've got it marked up underneath here as well. They need to be welded. Focus. I don't know if I can get it. There you go. And I've got it vice gripped here and here. So I have, if you look, I have a gap in between there. So it won't be sitting on the right on the wood. But it'll be supported there. As soon as I put it in there and weld it, it'll be where I want to have it. Okay, let's do some welding. Okay, never let perfection be the enemy of just good enough. The Russians had a whole philosophy of just good enough. While the Germans were building works of art and Mona Lisas in regards to tanks, the Russians weren't even painting there. So just good enough work. So in my book, just good enough is okay with me. But even if you're doing just good enough, you better tack these welds and check them twice. Because if you make a complete seam on something and it's not right, you're going to have to cut that whole seam. You don't want to do that. So we're just going to tack these. Background, background, background. There you go. Up. Ground, I guess. If you're going to do a lot of welding, I don't recommend doing it in a t-shirt. You'll get radiation burns. Those are fun. Doing a lot of welding. Just enough. I've got these two marked. Where's the one that's one? No longer has a mark on it. This has a 2 on it. Where's my mark? Same size, correct ones? Yes, they are. Okay, well, if this one's 2, this one's got to be 1. Stands to reason. Let me put that up there. Close enough for rock and roll. Put a little tack on it. Do the same to the other one. Eyeballish. Alright, let's see if that's just good enough. Okay, here's our finished product. I understand it's slightly bent. That's fine. It fits. Yeah, that's not exactly flat. That's fine. We're going to use a couple of dollops of urethane on there, tacked as cushions to even everything out. Actually, this is the way I wanted it because the rear is down a little bit and it allows the air conditioner to tilt at just a little bit of an angle, and that way it'll weep the water off the condenser. So we'll let that dry.